In the eastern U.S., it's about things that are returning. Smoke, for one thing, and flood watches are back up for parts of the Northeast, and be talking about that. We've got the extreme heat across parts of the South and Southwest. And you see all those air quality alerts that are going on. Some areas of severe weather tonight, and Tropical Storm Calvin heads westward for the big island of Hawaii, perhaps. We'll be talking about all of this and so much more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Get everything you need to make sure your home, the outside of your home or business, looks inviting and botanical. But also remember, with us getting each day, we get one day closer to the most active part of hurricane season. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that. You can get everything you need at Omni, 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. One of our chat board regulars, Birder Lady, is the latest to get a Tempest Weatherflow weather system, and you should get one too and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you purchase anything from their website, be it this or any of the other weather paraphernalia that they have, use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show. It'll save you some money, right, Joe?
Absolutely. You'll get 10% off. That's a good deal.
Yes. So I think you're probably, I would say you're probably not one of the more happier people in the world, since they've got flood watches up, not that in one county up from you. And my understanding is the Weather Service in Upton and Mount Holly decided to punt for one more model run to see if they should put it up. So they may do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, they'll wait a little bit. I want to apologize to all for not being here yesterday on the Coffee with Joe and Joe show. Well, first of all, you know that now this is going into the second week of a different background, and I'm still using my wife's laptop to communicate with all of you. My office now is bone dry. However, we've got some showers and storms in the forecast for later tomorrow and tomorrow evening. So the question is, will it still be bone dry after that? Over the weekend, I had a company, which will go nameless.
You better go nameless. Yes. Go on.
Well, I mean, they tore up part of my alongside of my house into the foundation to waterproof and put in a French drain. And they spent 12 hours, Joe, on this job from 7:30 on Saturday morning until 7:30 Saturday evening, interrupted by a brief thunderstorm that hit around 4:30 Saturday afternoon. And then we had an even bigger burst of rain Saturday night. And after the presumed waterproofing was done in the evening on Saturday, I went downstairs on Sunday morning, went into my home office, and found that the floor was wet with standing water again.
See, I would have been in tears over that.
Yeah, I was not very happy, and
I'm sure.
I have them coming back. They're supposed to come back today, but they're coming back tomorrow to assess the situation. So, assuming that I can get through tomorrow night with the threat of showers and storms, and Wednesday morning, it is still dry downstairs. If it is still dry, then I will make movement to finally move everything back and get everything back up and going again on Wednesday. But until that comes, until that certainty or surety comes, I'm still up here with the laptop talking to all of you right now. By the way, thank you very much to Quiet John, who made one of his infamous or famous big contributions to the tip jar here on the Joe and Joe show.
Quiet John. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many thanks. Hundreds of thousands of thanks.
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. Well, let's hope that nothing comes of it tomorrow night with respect to any additional problems. You know, one of the things that should be pointed out with respect to whatever is going to happen later tomorrow or tomorrow night, doesn't look like it's one of these like we had Sunday, nor does it look like what we had the Sunday before. Okay, this is probably going to produce less in the less in the way of total rainfall. But the issue now is that since if you add up all the rain that happened last week over various areas, you probably would have a very large area of geography that got anywhere from half a foot to a foot of rain when you combine it all together. The ground has got to
We had
the ground has to be beyond saturated at this point. So you get a thunderstorm that even produces a half an inch of rain. If it comes down fast enough, that's going to cause either river flooding because you know the rivers are high, or it's going to cause flash flooding. So the threshold here is very, very low for flash flooding. Uh, with whatever shower and thunderstorm activity we get this week.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. Yesterday, the target area appears to be places like Bayshore and Islip, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. Up here in Putnam Valley, we had about anywhere from 1.2 to 1.4 inches, which really compared to the previous Sunday was just a drop in the bucket. But add that on to all that fell during the previous week, Joe. We here in Putnam Valley have had over a foot of rain in just a span of 8 or 9 days. And yes, the ground must be very, very saturated, very soft, very wet. And it's going to be a while before things finally dry out.
All right, let's get rolling tonight, and we can start with we'll start with the surface map from 21Z or 5 p.m. Eastern time, and this map really kind of looks like surface maps that we've been seeing for the past several weeks. Weather fronts seem to get to the East Coast, and instead of keep move for them to keep moving, they just wind up along the coast and then gradually fall apart. And that's what's happened here today. Again, the frontal boundary that caused the rain yesterday is now sitting on the coast, and they have an analyzed stationary boundary that runs from through Maine, eastern Massachusetts, across Connecticut, just right at the GW Bridge and the Lincoln Tunnel, and then south and west of there through New Jersey into eastern Virginia and North Carolina. I mean, it didn't produce anything today because there's hardly any energy left. But again, these fronts just get here and then they die out, and then they're followed by another front. And once again, we've got one that's running through east of Lake Huron into northwestern Ohio, across central Indiana and Illinois, back through northern Missouri, then swings up through the northern plains. Yeah, there's a nice dry, cool air mass in the northern plains right now. Beautiful day up there. Clear, a lot of places in the Dakotas. Sunshine with temperatures in the low 70s and dew points down in the low 50s. Not happening. Not happening in the eastern part of the United States. But that front is our trigger mechanism for showers and storms tomorrow in the Northeast.
Absolutely. And it looks like anytime from 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow up until about, right after sundown, that's going to be the prime time period for showers and thunderstorms. And again, depending upon where you are, I mean, you could get anywhere from maybe a tenth of an inch to maybe, in the worst case scenario, at least I think the worst case scenario, maybe a half inch. So again, it all depends upon where you are relative to any one singular cell of precipitation. And any storm that we see tomorrow, Joe, I'm sure you'll show SPC in a moment, but they have us in a marginal risk for severe weather. And the possibility exists tomorrow for any one thunderstorm to bring with it brief gusty winds, some hail, and a brief heavy downpour. So it's going to be an interesting afternoon again, and we'll see just how we if we can weather the storm tomorrow in and around the region.
Meanwhile, it was a beautiful day across much of the mid-Atlantic and southeast, certainly by me, after some morning clouds. Although I will tell you, by the way, smoke. I cannot, usually on every day on a sunny day, I mean, the visibility is clear to the horizon, and I see all the mountains, the mountain tops. Could not see the mountains at all. Even though we had plenty of sunshine, the smoke just pretty much uh, reduced visibility considerably. A lot of haze in the air here in the southeast. So it's not just the northeast, but it's in parts of the mid-Atlantic and southeast, and of course in and around the Great Lakes, which has been, except for a handful of days, has been pretty much ongoing there now for almost 2 months. The frontal boundary that extends from North Carolina down into southern Georgia, there's some showers and thunderstorms tonight there. But the rest of the South is actually pretty quiet. And in fact, you start heading into Texas and you get into the triple digit numbers. 100-degree readings. It looks like almost every observation that I'm looking at here, except for one in southwest Texas where it's 96 for some reason, everybody seems to be over 100 in Texas. And then across into New Mexico, the same. Then you head into Arizona, and we're looking at numbers numbers above 110 in parts of Southern California, above 115. I'm sure they're not representing all the observations there, but the heat just goes on, and in that area, and until you can get some kind of deep trough to come down, which doesn't seem like they're going to be coming down in the west anytime soon, you might get one that could come down and maybe bring some relief to parts of, at least in northern Texas. But this is going to go on for a while. No sign of any break in this.
It's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And I'm looking at the 8 to 14 day U.S. hazards outlook map, which I unfortunately cannot really easily show you, but I will describe to you that through the 25th of July and to the 28th of July, there's a broad area encompassing much of Arizona and New Mexico showing moderate to high probability of excessive heat. Now we're talking about, today is the 17th day of July, so we're talking about 10 or 11 days out into the future, and still those poor folks out in Arizona and New Mexico are going to have to deal with temperatures likely above 100 or 110 degrees. And I saw that on one of the local news reports that Death Valley, I don't know why anybody want to go there at this time of the year, but Death Valley, Joe, had an actual high temperature, ambient air temperature high of 126 degrees today.
Oh, very nice. We could check that right now. I have the watches and warnings map. I'll come back to that in a moment. So let's see. Let's go to Death Valley. Furnace Creek, California. Well, there's Death Valley, Furnace Creek, Death Valley Junction, California. Then there's just plain old Death Valley. Then there is Death Valley Junction Historic District, California-127 in Shoshone, California. Then there's the Death Valley Natural Bridge in Shoshone, California. And then there's something called Death Valley World War II Papago MNP. I have no idea what that means. So let's try Furnace Creek. 123, Joe. 123 with a dew point of 52, which comes to a relative humidity of 10%. Okay, a south wind of 3 and a heat index of 119.
God.
Shall we check? I'll just check one other Death Valley. Let's go.
What would you expect? What would you expect for a place that's known as Furnace Creek?
Well, yeah. Death Valley. Well, that's also okay. So it's the same thing whether you put in Death Valley or Death Valley. You get the visitor center at Furnace Creek. I imagine the visitor center is air conditioned.
I would hope so.
I would hate to think that it's not. And let's just look at let's look at Phoenix. And Phoenix right now is 115 with a west-northwest wind at 10, so they have a breeze. The dew point
Yeah.
55. The dew point is, I'm sorry, the dew point is 55. That works out to a relative humidity of 13% and a heat index of 113. And Las Vegas. I feel like when I have to call up the Las Vegas temperature, I should be asking people if they want to give me odds. And
Yeah.
anyway, it's 111 with an east-south east wind at 14, the dew point at 49, visibility 10 miles, and the relative humidity is 12%. I
With a
don't
heat
need.
index of 100.
Yeah, exactly. The heat indexes are lower than the actual temperatures out here, which you know what? I'm really glad because, oftentimes the heat index is usually used to make 100-degree temperatures even worse, as if you really need to make them sound even worse. But at least this time, they come in lower, so it's the actual temperature that matters, which has always been my argument. But that always falls on deaf ears. Okay, so we've got flood watches up for the Hudson Valley north of Route 84, mainly east of the Hudson, all the way up into northeastern New York, all of Vermont, all of New Hampshire, western and central Connecticut, western and central Massachusetts, northwest Connecticut, and the western part of Maine. The gray areas are all air quality alerts that cover pretty much all of the Northeast, the northern mid-Atlantic states, and back to the Great Lakes. We also have air quality alerts in much of North Carolina, parts of Georgia, including, I don't think they have one up for me technically, but 20 miles north of me, it's up, and 20 miles south of me, it's up. So, for all intents and purposes, it's up. We've got severe thunderstorm watches up from southwest Ohio across central and southern Indiana, the southern half of Illinois, the southern half of Missouri, the northern half of Arkansas, the western part of Tennessee, northwest Mississippi, and back through parts of Oklahoma. And of course, you see across the south in those lovely orange and purple colors, it's either heat advisories there or excessive heat warnings. We also have heat advisories up for South Florida. And the big red box on the lower left is are the Hawaiian Islands, and tropical storm warnings are up for the coastal waters, and we have looks like did they go to a tropical storm warning for the Big Island? Let's see. I think so. No, hold on. It's a different color. You know what?
It's interesting.
I gotta pull this up. Hold on.
They don't
Uh,
normally have Hawaii on this map, do they?
what's that?
They don't normally have Hawaii on that.
No, they always have that
Watches and
box of Alaska and Hawaii. Sometimes I box it out when I
okay,
use it as a graphic, but not
right.
today. All right, so it's a tropical storm watch up for the Big Island, and then they have a gale watch. That's what that no, it's a small craft advisory that's up for the coastal waters east of the Big Island. Uh, so there you go. And they got all kinds of gale watches and special weather statements and all sorts of stuff. We'll come back to this in just a little while. Let's go on to the satellite loop. I'm going to freshen this up in a moment, but you can see the smoke. I mean, it's all clear. It's so clear in the east, and yet you got all this milky white stuff that is representing all the smoke, and it really just it's not that I didn't see anything that was particularly dense about it, but it is covering a very large area of geography back to the Great Lakes as well, the Ohio Valley, and that's because the upper flow has connected with Canada, so we're getting this sort of broad bowl west-southwest flow around a trough that's over the Great Lakes. So the door is open again for the smoke to come in, and it's probably going to hang around for a couple of days.
And guess what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, Joe, at 6:00 a.m.
I don't have any clue. At 6
Well,
a.m.
Renat and I, yes, a.m. Renat and I are going to be at our SUV, and we're going to be rolling into the driveway of my son and daughter-in-law, who will be then getting into our car, They'll be putting their suitcase probably
Oh,
in the
right, because
back.
they're going to they're going to Hawaii.
They're going to Hawaii.
Are,
What a
are,
great
are,
time to
are,
choose.
are they going to the Big Island?
No,
Oh, they'll
no,
fine.
I don't think
They're fine.
they're going to be going to Oahu. They'll be going to Honolulu. You know,
Honolulu, land of Goshen. Yes.
really, the funny thing is, on a game show, let's say on Let's Make a Deal or whatever, and or The Price is Right. If you hear that the prize is you've won a trip to the Big Island of Hawaii, yes, you'll stay for a full week in the hotel at Hilo, Hawaii. I mean, let me tell you something. That ain't a very good.
You'll stay in the cavern in Kilauea.
I mean, Hilo, Hawaii gets like 200 inches of rain, or just inland from the Hilo. They're right on the coast, the east northeast coast of Hawaii, just inland. They get like 200 inches of rain. It's like it rains almost every day in the vicinity of Hilo because they get that northeast or east trade wind that blows upslope along the side of Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and the upsloping effect causes all that rain. I don't know anybody who goes or vacations on the Big Island. Everybody, of course, goes to Honolulu and the other islands, which are smaller and generally speaking do not have those tall mountain cones. It's possible that if you're on Oahu and you're on the east northeast coast, you'll see maybe an afternoon shower or thunderstorm. But most times, especially in July, it's dry and fair. But no, I don't think anybody ever says, "Oh, I'm going to the Big Island." You know,
Right.
it's a very interesting place to go, but with the volcanic activity and everything, yeah, unless you like a lot of unsettled conditions, a lot of rainy weather, stay away from Hilo,
Right. Or
Hawaii.
if you go to the wintertime, you can go maybe at a time when they have a blizzard warning up for the
Oh
high
yeah,
peaks. Yeah. Not too much thunderstorm activity going on this evening. We've got some scattered storms in parts of Florida. They actually look like they're winding down. Also in parts of southern Louisiana. But much of the southeast and the Gulf states, nice and quiet tonight outside of the smoke. We have a complex of storms moving through West Virginia and parts of western and now into central Pennsylvania, but those should fall apart and not be a problem further east in time. We've got some developing thunderstorms in southern Missouri. And also in southeastern Missouri and on parts of Indiana, uh, inside an area of severe weather risk. You can see it's bright and sunny in Texas. Actually, seeing some thunderstorms developing in eastern Arizona from north to. So if you cut the state in half, it's mostly in the eastern half of Arizona and the western half of New Mexico. Seeing a few lightning strikes going on there, and it looks like some little upper air disturbance is moving along, which won't do anything to break the heat. The tight northeast view, we'll take a look at that now, and I'll give it a quick refresh. And again, you see all that milky white. It's everywhere. Not quite into Maine, but getting there. But everybody else in New England, all the way down through the southeast and all the way west back through the lower Great Lakes, just got dealing with the smoke. And you see the lightning flashes across central PA. A little bit of a line there of storms, which I'm sure the radar is probably going to show. In fact, we have one little severe thunderstorm warning that has popped up in that complex in central Pennsylvania. Little line there, not too bad, and a cluster of showers moving northeastward. Another thunderstorm on the Virginia side of West Virginia along I-81 going on at the moment. You see more numerous severe thunderstorms right now. And by the way, it's 8 o'clock Eastern Time in case you're watching us on a replay. Always go to weather.gov to check on what's going on with severe weather in your neck of the woods. If you're watching the show, obviously the satellites and radars are going to be dated. But at least at 8 o'clock, very busy with the east-west line of storms in Indiana with it looks like half a dozen severe thunderstorm warnings there. We've got a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings also in southeast Missouri and in northern Arkansas, and even in west central Missouri, looking at a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings there. And in parts of south central Kansas, little complex that's heading into northern Oklahoma. And then out in the west, we've got some showers in eastern Montana, showers and a couple of thunderstorms in eastern Wyoming. In Colorado, a few showers, even in and around the Denver area. And further south, you can see what's going on in Arizona and New Mexico. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in play there. The Storm Prediction Center for tonight. That's tomorrow's map first. So now here's tonight's. With this big area of marginal to slight risk that starts up in the northern Rockies, goes through the plains, through the Missouri River Valley, the Mississippi River Valley, the middle Mississippi River Valley, and then northeast of the Ohio Valley and into the western half of Pennsylvania. But a lot of this stuff, as you saw on the radar, it's concentrated in a few places, and then there's large gaps where there really isn't a whole lot going on at the moment. Tornado risk is 2% in a small area in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and the corners of Kansas and Oklahoma, the southeast and northeast corner of those states. Now, tomorrow, SPC has added, they did this afternoon, Joe, at 2 o'clock. They added this large area of marginal risk. I was kind of wondering all day yesterday. They had, this sort of broad area of general thunderstorms all over the place, but no risk in the east. I'm thinking you got a front coming through. You've just had two big events and a couple of medium-sized ones. Aren't you going to throw the marginal risk up? Well, apparently they must have heard me. So there you go. Now we have marginal risk. They actually did talk about the fact that in New England that there could be a few supercells.
Yes.
In the discussion.
And also within that marginal risk area, hail, and of course you'd have to throw in the potential for heavy or possibly torrential brief downpours. And it could, again, whatever happens tomorrow afternoon or early tomorrow evening could be locally nasty, depending upon where you are. There'll probably be also locally, concentrated. I mean, supercells. You get one of these situations where one place could get beaten like a piñata, and 5 miles up the road, it really got dark, but all we got was a couple of big drops. That's going to be the kind of a scenario we'll be looking at tomorrow afternoon and early evening, probably sometime again after 3 or 4 o'clock up until about sundown in and around the tri-state area. So keep your eye on the sky.
The lower Ohio Valley on Wednesday into Thursday has a marginal risk of severe weather from southeast Missouri east to western Virginia and portions of northern Tennessee and northwestern North Carolina, and another area of marginal risk from the Central Plains northeastward into Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Now I'm going to switch over to WPC. You know what? Let me just back up for tonight. They do have for tonight just an area of marginal risk across the middle Mississippi Valley northeastward into parts of western New York. So this carries us through Tuesday morning, again with those clusters around. So it's not a widespread event if it happens. Tomorrow, though, they've kind of been holding on to this since yesterday. They've got a fairly large area of slight risk of flash flooding, which is 15 to 40% probability from northern New Jersey, New York City, western Long Island, northeastern through upstate New York, and then on up through New England, except for the southeast part of the state. Again, a slight risk of flash flooding, and we have a slight to moderate risk of flash flooding in southern Illinois and into western Kentucky. If you look at the forecast rain amounts for the next 7 days in the Northeast, it's basically 3/4 of an inch to pockets of an inch and a half. Again, it's not really more about the volume of additional rain so much than it is about that it rains at all, because the flooding thresholds are very, very low. So don't be fooled by the fact that say, okay, it's just the odd thunderstorm. You get the odd thunderstorm, as I said earlier, puts down a quick half an inch to an inch of rain right over where you happen to be. You may certainly see some flash flooding. There's a patch across Illinois into southern Kentucky and northern Tennessee where it's about 1.5 to 2.5 inches. In all of these instances, again, this is a 7-day rainfall forecast. If you look at the daily forecast map, which I had. I think I may have just got rid of it. I'll bring that up because this is once again, you look at the rainfall amounts that they're forecasting here, and you'll have you'll want to yawn. Why do they have a flood watch for less than a half an inch of rain in New York City? I mean, you have to really go up, even up in New England. I mean, there's a few pockets here and there where they're indicating a little over an inch, but it's not like the other day where we had 2 to 3 inches everywhere on this map. But this is again a convective event, so these locally these amounts could be double. So instead of 3/4 of an inch at Poughkeepsie, it could be an inch and a half. If a thunderstorm lands right over there and sits for a while. So the same rule applies here that you could locally have double the amounts that are being forecast.
Absolutely, Joe. Absolutely. And that formula seemingly has worked over the last couple of weeks. In fact, now when I look
it really worked. It worked really well on Sunday.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I look at the QPF, and if the QPF maps from WPC show, let's say anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch, I just automatically or mentally say, okay, that's more like a half to 1 inch because the humidity is so very, very high. I should point out that the dew point will take a somewhat noticeable dip on Wednesday. And then for the weekend, keep your fingers crossed, because I think not only are we looking at what appears to be, at least to me, mostly sunny conditions for Saturday and Sunday, but also a dip all the way down into the lower 60s or near 60 for dew point temperatures. Now, I know normally we would categorize that as muggy, but compared to the day after day after day series of 65 to 70 or even 70 plus dew points, when you can get the dew points down that low, down into the low 60s or near 60, that's going to feel quite good, even with the temperatures somewhere in the upper and middle 80s. There'll be a little bit of relief. And again, I cannot remember the last time here in the tri-state area we were able to string together 2 nice sunny weekend days. We've had to deal with, I mean, this past weekend, for example, for the most part, Saturday was fairly sunny, although some got a thunderstorm late in the day. And Sunday, forget it. We all know what happened on Sunday with anywhere from 1 to 6 inches of rain, depending upon where you were. But next weekend, maybe we might be able to put together, for the first time in a while, maybe going back to the Memorial Day weekend, holiday weekend, 2 nice, sunny, dry days, Saturday and Sunday.
Well, in case we really haven't talked about this too much, but we did get rid of another name. That system in the central Atlantic became a tropical storm, a subtropical storm, I should say. Subtropical storm Don. We mentioned it yesterday. It's a little closer to the Azores than it was yesterday when it was about halfway between New Jersey and the Azores. But it is now just a tropical depression. Winds of 35 miles per hour, according to the Hurricane Center. And if we take a look at the forecast track, it's forecast to move southeast and then turn east and then turn north and then turn northwest. And I don't know why they actually have it. Wait a minute. Why is this an old map? Well, this is odd, Joe. Hold on a second. They have so 38.1 and 41.6, moving southeast at 14. Top winds are 35 miles per hour. For some reason, NHC's forecast map is from Saturday. This is Monday, July 17th. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. You know what's throwing me off? The X, where it says 9 p.m. Monday. I'm looking at the track backwards. Okay. So it's actually moving southeast now. It's tough when you approach the mid 60s.
It's weird.
Yes.
Weird.
9 p.m. Monday, so that's where it is. And it's moving southeast now as a depression, but it's actually forecast to re-strengthen into a tropical storm by Wednesday, turn westward and then northwestward to about where it was yesterday. So it's basically going nowhere. and doing it quickly. And it's going to take all week, apparently, if it holds together for all of this to play out. So 38.1, 41.6, sustained wind at 35, moving southeast at 14. I don't even think it's worth looking at the satellite. But let's look at Calvin, and I'll get the Pacific. Let's see if I can get a Pacific view of Calvin. Shall
You
we?
have to go to the Central Pacific.
No, they got the floaters. We could look at the floater. So there's the floater visible of Calvin. It's got a nice looking signature in terms of the circulation, but you can see all the convection is there's not a whole lot going on south of the center. It's all to the north. It also doesn't look particularly big either as it moves along to the west. Maybe what I'll do is see if I can get a Pacific shot here. These are Calvin loops. These are all floaters. Let's go to I don't know how wide the view from Hawaii is. Nope, it's just this is the satellite of Hawaii close up, and you see the just some clouds rolling in from the east in the Pacific. So let's see if I can get the larger Pacific. The tropical Pacific would not be the east. The eastern East Pacific. That's a good way to describe it. They've got the South Pacific. Let's see if the tropical Pacific works. I'm going to probably say no. Well, maybe not. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is a good shot here. You can see Calvin. These Pacific shots can be really dramatic sometimes. But, here's Calvin right in there. As a tropical storm. Just been plodding along to the northwest. To the north of it, over the colder water, you see some of the low and middle clouds there, but it hasn't quite gotten any of that entrained into its circulation at the moment. So it just moves along and does what it's supposed to do. And this is what the Hurricane Center is doing with regards to Calvin. There we go. Get the forecast map up there. So it is for those of you who like to plot these things, it's at 17.4 and 144.4 west. Top winds are 50 miles an hour. I think it's about 800 miles east of the Big Island of Hawaii, maybe a little less, and about 1,000 miles or so to the east of Honolulu. And it's forecast, if you draw a straight line through here, they're keeping this as a tropical storm. But I got to think that by the time it reaches the Hawaiian Islands, it'll probably be no worse than a low-end tropical storm. I mean, maybe they'll get some wind and some rain. I don't think this is going to be anything crazy for them.
Let me also point out that the map that you're looking at, normally we're accustomed to seeing these track maps from Coral Gables or Miami, Florida, the National Hurricane Center. But this particular plot is from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center in Honolulu. And in fact, that's actually the National Weather Service forecast office for Honolulu, Hawaii, which also doubles as the Central Pacific Hurricane Center as well. And I've been there. I've been to that office, and well, it's been a few years now since I was there, but that's where when they move out of the Eastern Pacific and into the Central Pacific, that's when Miami hands it off and says, "Here you go, Honolulu. It's all yours now."
Yeah, once it crosses 140, you and I go back and remember the East Pacific used to have a Hurricane Center office in San Francisco that used to do the East Pacific stuff, and then they got rid of it and gave it all to Miami.
Right. They must have said, the government officials in Washington said, "Hey,
what do we need two of these for?
You need two of these for why are we doing that? If they can do a good job in Miami for the Atlantic, why can't they do it for the Eastern
Let's
Pacific?
double their workload at half the pay."
Exactly.
Your Excellency, one of my favorite lines from Duck Soup. Your Excellency, the workers are demanding shorter hours. And Groucho Marx says, "Okay, we'll start by cutting their lunch hour down to 20 minutes."
Yeah.
All right, on to the the European and the mainland. Uh, Not much really. I mean, other than these threats for showers and thunderstorms, this troughing, stubborn troughing in the east just continues until further notice. So, we've got this system for Tuesday that'll set off some showers and storms, and you see the European, kind of generates. This is precip amounts. It's not radar, but it does set off some storms tomorrow afternoon and evening, and even into the overnight hours. Sort of argue, even the GFS kind of argues that maybe for the immediate coast may have to wait till like after 11, 10 or 11 o'clock to get a shower or thunderstorm. Then that goes out. As Joe pointed out, a brief, subtle break in the humidity. But dew points from 75 to upper 60s will be a break, and you'll probably feel a little better. Uh, the European wants to fire up some thunderstorms Wednesday afternoon from some little disturbance that comes out of West Virginia. I don't know if did you put anything in for Wednesday?
I mentioned just a slight chance late Wednesday of
Okay,
a
I can
shower.
live with that. I can live with that. It looks like maybe
I
a
was
bit
doing it.
more.
I was saying to myself, but when I was doing that, I was saying to myself, but you're calling for lower humidity, and yet you're still calling for a chance of a shower late in the day. But
But the humidity's not all that low.
yeah,
The humidity
well,
you're still going to get you're going to still have fairly high dew points. It's just going to mental physically feel better because you're coming from dew points in the low to mid 70s.
right,
All
right.
right,
It's
yeah,
everything, as Einstein said, everything
is
is
right.
relative.
Is correct. Looks like a little thunderstorm complex no, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, moving into Kentucky and Tennessee, and then eventually just kind of splatters apart across North Carolina and Virginia. Then on Thursday, we await the arrival of another cold front late in the day, Thursday and Thursday night, and that might set off some showers and storms. A little bit tough on the timing here because the front wants to get hung up on Friday along the coast, and the European wants to bubble up some thunderstorms during Friday before it moves on out. And then, as you said, maybe the thickness does attempt to go to below to down to 564, not quite there, but getting close. By the time we get to over the weekend, we actually do get to a 564 thickness, so that might be enough to take the dew points maybe down into the lower 60s, perhaps, or maybe even some places a little bit lower than that. Yeah, I think the weekend we may actually have two decent days on the weekend, maybe. Saturday might be a little iffy inland and upstate New York and New England with some showers and storms there with the whatever upper trough is still has to wait to go through. But this is about as this sort of is about the best that we can do, given the way the pattern is set up this month.
Right. I should also point out that this weekend, if any of you are in the vicinity of Putnam Valley, it is the big annual German Fest. And yes, if you want to stay cool this weekend, there is going to be plenty of good old-fashioned German beer, along with bratwurst and other and music as well. And Renata has been, really been stressing out, considering all of the weekends so far that have been unsettled and rainy and showery. And she said, "Oh, if I only have one good weekend, David." And it looks like this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, for the most part, look to be a-okay. That's what we say now on Monday. Let's see if it still looks that way on Thursday.
Yes. Now, a few of you have pointed out to me today that the GFS is showing a major hurricane in the long range. Well,
Oh yeah,
and it's done it for about 3 or 4 runs now. Well, it's not in this run, so I will use the rule that has worked so far with the two Atlantic storms that formed when we saw those systems there. Both models had it, both the GFS and the European showed it, and the European's not showing anything. So until both models show it, uh, that at least will give you a little bit of confidence that there's some, you know, that there might be a possibility for something to develop. But if the GFS is doing it by itself, I would I will be I will be skeptical. That's the word I'm looking for. Skeptical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't want to end this on a sad note, but and a couple of people
All
made
right, hold
reference to it.
on. I know. Just one second. Let me just acknowledge Brandon Doherty hit super chat earlier. Thank you, Brandon. Since you're going to talk about Elise Finch, I want to just do that for Brandon first. So Brandon hit super chat. Thank you, Brandon. Okay, now go ahead.
Well, yeah, we and this is kind of like it came like a bolt out of left field, a bolt from the blue. I mean, I do not get up early in the morning as some of you may do. So I really did not, follow on a regular basis. I mean, I certainly knew of Elise Finch. I remember when she was on weekend nights. I actually met her once at the Hayden Planetarium at a function there back in 2017. But I mean, there she was on Friday doing what she normally does, providing a good forecast, an understandable forecast. She was very popular, not just at the TV station, but among many, many people who watched her. Morning drive, Joe, is habit. You whether you listen to the radio or watch on television before you go to work and school, and you see these people on your TV screens, and if you see them for a long enough time, they almost become like members of the family. So there she was on Friday, and then late last night came the news that she passed away yesterday. Still not sure exactly what was the cause, but the sad part about it is 51 years old. I mean,
that's sad. That's
too
all.
young.
Yeah, it's much too. I never met her. I didn't know her. So, but she was part of the New York market. So, it's sad to see. I mean, it's sad that something like this happened to someone so young, and
And
condolences to her close friends and her family. Because this is terrible.
Only 6 years old, the little girl, and she married one of the camera people from CBS 2. They met on the job, fell in love, married, then they had a young had a daughter, still very young, again around 5 or 6 years old, and that really makes it very, very sad indeed. And I'll tell you also that in the cutthroat world of TV news, that there were more than a few of the rival TV stations that made reference to her death. And a couple of, I saw on Channel 7, WABC, for example, Bill Ritter, who was absolutely, moved by just talking about the fact that she had passed away. So she was very respected, very well liked, very loved by many, and just a very, very sad thing. And if you go on my Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather on Facebook, I posted Lonnie Quinn's tribute. Lonnie and Elise arrived at CBS 2 16 years ago, almost at the same time. I'm not sure who arrived first, whether it was Lonnie or Elise, but like a week or two after one came, the other one arrived, and they've been together ever since. And Lonnie was moved, as one would expect, by the news of his close colleague passing away. And you can see that again on my Facebook page if you go to Joe Rayo Weather. So sad day in local TV news here in the tri-state area with the passing again of Elise Finch.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up tonight. So thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Quiet John and Brandon Doherty, for hitting super chat. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30. We'll do Briller Jeopardy tomorrow.
If Scott Briller hears this or whatever like that, because he has been sending me Briller Jeopardy almost every other day, and the thing is, I haven't had a chance to use them because of my situation with this laptop. But I can assure you, Scott, that we will use them. I now have a stock load of Briller Jeopardy that we can fall back on once we're back into the office, hopefully later this week.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow that you don't get it. You know, if it does rain, that you don't flood, because then that means that whatever they're doing is working.
Yes,
All right,
we'll
we'll
see.
we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. All right, folks. Have a great rest of your night, and we will see you tomorrow at 7:35 p.m. Thank you, Brandon. My landscaping was great, he said. Thank you. For those of you who are interested, because a few of you have asked me with regards to that, I did put up a video on. There's a video in the YouTube library that I put up, and there might be two of them, so you could maybe see the progress. They're short. They're only a minute long, so just go ahead and pull them up and take a look, and tell me what you think, and say nice things, okay? So we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.